Hello, it's Hannah Gelbart here. Welcome back to What in the World from the BBC World Service. Today we're talking all about skincare and anti-aging products, because the stuff that you use to wash your face didn't used to be much of a conversation starter, but nowadays social media is flooded with all of these videos. There are 10-step skincare routines, get ready with me's, and these tutorials showing you how to get that perfect, youthful glass skin. And children as young as 8 have been hopping on the trend. They're using the same luxury products as their favourite celebs and influencers. But could these products be doing more harm than good? Today, you're going to find out what's in the stuff that you put on your skin. And we're going to talk about whether anti-aging products should be age restricted. Back on the What in the World podcast, here in the studio with me is BBC Health reporter Annabel Rackham. Hi.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, Annabel, how much do you actually care about your own skincare?
I have to say, my knowledge has improved quite a lot in maybe the last year or two. I just used to be a makeup wipe, across the face, throw it in the bin kind of gal, and now I've got a 3-step skincare regime. Some people have 8. That's way too much for me. Just like cleansing my face in the morning is a big enough task. So I am getting better, but I can't say I'm like TikTok influencer level.
And why is skincare becoming such a big trend online? Like, you've been looking into this. What kind of videos have you seen, specifically the stuff that is directed more towards younger people, children?
I think it's all about trends, and we've seen in the last year or two this idea of like a clean girl aesthetic. So people, especially younger people, they're not partying anymore, so there isn't that need for that really dramatic makeup look. Everyone wants to look more natural, more relaxed, more glowing. People are staying at home more, that sort of thing. And I think, the way that vloggers are, it's all paid into this idea that skincare now is the big thing over a massive makeup routine, and people are just looking for that, perfect skin, and that really, well kept, well together look, which I think, it all fits in with that trend.
So it's like, look like you get 8 hours sleep, even if you don't get
exactly.
8 hours sleep.
And it's healthy eating, not drinking. That is, if you look at Gen Z, that is the lifestyle that they're living. So, the healthy skin goes hand in hand with that.
And what kind of videos are out there to try and get young people, children, Gen Z, to buy these products?
So I don't think it's specifically about the videos, because I think that the videos are not designed for these children. They are designed for people our age, in their 20s and 30s, who want to learn about skincare. And
children shouldn't even be on these platforms.
Exactly. And it's because it's a video about skincare, they're not age restricted. So other videos might not even come up on their algorithms. But these do, because there's nothing really inherently bad about, a girl taking her makeup off, or doing a cleanser or a face mask, something like that. There's nothing wrong with it. So it's probably that content for older people is falling into the hands of younger children, and then they're using these people as their role models. Like some of the kids that I've spoken to, they just see these influencers as the way that we might see celebrities, so they just want to imitate what they're doing.
This kind of reminds me of when I was little. Like, I used to play with my mum's makeup. I think as long as we have, children have always tried to imitate adult stuff. We've always tried to be older, look older, be more grown up, try out our mum's products. So there's nothing new about kids wanting to use their parents' products. But I think what's really interesting about this is that it's anti-aging products, and that kind of ties into this whole thing about being perfect, that perfect image on social media. How is that changing the way that people look, the use of filters, the way that we upload everything about our life, and what kind of effect is that having on people?
I think that idea of perfection has always been out there. Years and years ago, it was Hollywood stars that we'd see on screen that we'd think as perfect, and then it's filtered down to maybe your everyday celebrity, your reality star, and now it's influencers. So we've always been, that marketing, that advertising has always been pushed to us throughout the generations. But now it's so easily accessible. Maybe back in the day, we might have spent more time out and about with friends or with, other people that live regular lives. But these children are being pushed content by people that, are famous or popular for those exact reasons. Their lives are pretty extraordinary, and they're just presented with that all the time. And that's what leads to perfection. These people are, we could look at influencers. Why are influencers famous? It might be down to the way they look. It might be down to the way that they present themselves. And it is, as you say, they've got this beautiful glowing skin, they look amazing, and so children just want to imitate that. And that's the difficult thing, really. It's hard to try and differentiate between what is real life and what's achievable and what is this, beauty ideal standard that is hard for, 99% of us to really achieve.
And here is Blancah Catherine. She is a beauty content creator from South Africa. And we asked her how social media is playing a part in young people's interest in skincare.
I do think that TikTok is encouraging younger people to use anti-aging products. I think that even though creators might not be directing their content at younger viewers, there are a lot of them on the app that are just being fed all of this information. I do also think that the aesthetic of a beauty routine and skincare is very trendy at the moment, and a lot of young people want to be trendy. So I think as a creator and for brands as well, it's really important to just engage with your audience, especially if you have younger viewers.
So Annabel, what kind of data do we actually have about how much under 18s are using these products?
So we don't have much, and that's the difficult thing with under 18s. We don't really pry that much into their daily habits. But we do know from the US last year that Gen Alpha, so that's even younger than Gen Z, that's those born after 2010, they were behind a growth of 49% in skincare last year. So that is a huge leap. And then there's a little bit of data about the UK, which shows that there was a 21% jump in young people using anti-aging moisturisers specifically in the last 2 years.
That is huge, isn't it? And what's the problem with this? Like, what are some of the concerns with children, people with young skin, using anti-aging products?
I mean, they don't need to anti-age, do they? They're children. They're children. Should be people much older using it. But that is the main concern. Your skin barrier, which just protects your skin, that does not develop until you're an adult. So you could be damaging basically the surface of your skin from a really young age, which could lead you to, being susceptible to different infections. You could grow up with really sensitive skin, which is going to need further treatment when you're older. And you've also just got, a lot of young people do suffer with skin concerns like eczema. It can really aggravate something like that. So there are difficulties, some children may use it and they may only use a tiny bit of product and that might not do anything. But, there's no real truth to, what the long-term effects of using these products could be because children just haven't done it in the past.
And what's actually in these products? What is the stuff that could cause harm to children's skin?
So I think two of the main ingredients you need to think about are retinols and exfoliating acids. These are some of the common things that as adults, we're told are pretty good for your skin. But as a child, that is something that you 100% we know should not be using at all because, as I've previously mentioned, they attack the skin barrier. And that's absolutely fine for us. We've got adult skin, but for kids, it's just a complete no-go.
And we have been speaking to a paediatric dermatologist, Dr. Carol Cheng at the University of California in the US. We asked her a bit more about these ingredients and what they do.
I often get asked about the active ingredients in anti-aging skincare, especially because many younger patients are starting to pay attention to their skin's health early on. Some of these most common active ingredients you'll see are retinols or vitamin A, vitamin C, hyaluronic acid, and most importantly, sunscreen. Even though these ingredients are often associated with use in more mature individuals, they can be beneficial for younger patients if used appropriately. For example, many teenagers and patients in their 20s who have acne may already be using topical retinoids, which is one of the most effective treatments for treating acne and clogged pores. At the same time, it is also effective for anti-aging. Vitamin C is great for skin brightening and can also reduce the appearance of dark spots on the skin. But this is a product that I don't feel is necessary until a patient is in their 20s at the earliest. Hyaluronic acid is great for all ages and in keeping the skin hydrated and plump and well moisturized, especially in the drier winter months. And I cannot emphasize enough that sunscreen is crucial for protecting your skin from sun damage. So even if you're not worried about aging yet, sunscreen is your best defense against premature damage. However, there are negative effects to some of these products, which usually stem from overuse, improper formulation, or in individuals with sensitive skin. For example, ingredients like retinols can cause irritation, dryness, burning, and redness. If there's any concerns or questions about a good anti-aging regimen, please see your dermatologist or pediatric dermatologist who can provide an individualized plan suited for your skin.
So, Annabel, given that these products could be potentially harmful to children's skin, are there any regulations about marketing them to young people? You mentioned the bright packaging.
At the moment, there isn't anything, which for many parents is probably a big concern. We did see last year that the biggest pharmacy brand in Sweden banned the sale of any anti-aging products to children, which is a really big step. And also the EU is bringing in a rule soon about retinols. So the high-strength retinols will not be available for general sale over the counter anymore. You'll have to get those prescribed from a doctor, which again is a really big step because they are potentially really dangerous. And even as an adult, if you use too many retinol products, you can damage your skin. So that just shows you, how important it is that these products don't fall into the hands of the children. But there is a lot of pressure on these big global beauty brands that we recognise a lot from TikTok, where these kids are going in and they're seeing all the bright packaging. There's a big drive by some parents to say, please, if our children go into this store, bring something in that the staff are going to stop them, or there's going to be signage that tells them it's not appropriate for them, because a lot of the time it is up to the stores themselves where the children are buying the products from. And as of yet, no store apart from that pharmacy brand in Sweden has, become the first big one to make a change. But there is like a hope and expectation that happens, because currently these brands, they're not trying to advertise to children. Like, that's something that's really important to remember. They did not design their packaging to attract children. That is
it's just a secondary
negative
effect, isn't it?
byproduct. Yeah, so it's not really about the brands. It's probably just about making sure that in stores, maybe it's ID checks like you have for alcohol or, tobacco products.
So, Annabel, overall, what do you think needs to change to protect young people's mental health, but also their physical health, their skin?
So I think it has to start with parents, really, and there's just so much pressure on them. I don't think they're necessarily to blame. It's all about education. So a lot of parents might be buying these products for their children, not knowing what is actually in them. They just see maybe the bright packaging and think it's appropriate. And oftentimes they're really, really expensive. So again, it would save parents a lot of money, but it's all about, education for them. And they can then pass that on to their children and know, what is safe and what isn't. But I think ultimately it does come down to the people that sell these products, or again, the brands themselves, making sure on the packaging that it's really transparent that these products are not designed for children.
Yeah. Annabel, just for the record, I think you've got perfect skin.
Thank you. I would not say that right now. But
Thank you.
I'll take it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming back on the podcast, Annabel. And thank you for joining us, whether you're watching or listening. This is What in the World from the BBC World Service. I'm Hannah Gelbart, and we'll be back with another episode soon. See you then. Bye.